Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure and honor to open the 14th China Goes Global Conference on behalf of the Chinese Globalization Association. I am Françesca Spigarelli, member of the association. I am professor in Italy at the University of Macerata that hosted the China Goes Global Conference in 2016. This year's conference is held in remote mode, hosted by the ALON Business School of Asia, sponsored by the Beedie School of Business, Simon Fraser University in Canada. And I would like to extend my appreciation to the organizing institutions, sponsors, strategic partners, strategic media partners, and other supporting media for their great help in organizing the conference. The topic that we have chosen for the 14th China Goes Global Conference is Pandemic, Globalization, and China. And after yesterday's event for doctoral students, the doctoral workshop, today's session is devoted to interaction with leading Chinese firms, representatives, professionals, and institutions, while tomorrow we will have the scientific paper presentation and discussion built around our main topic. So coming back to today's program, as you can see, it is very, very rich. We will start with the opening remarks by Dr. Ilan, President of the Chinese Globalization Association, and Dr. Carolyn EGRI of Simon Fraser University. Later, we will have two amazing keynote speakers. We will have Mr. Shufu from Geely-Volvo Group and Miss Gina Chow from Lenovo. After that, we will have the presentation of the report released by ALON and National Business Daily on top 100 Chinese companies by contributors to Belt and Road Initiative host countries. Comments and discussions on this important and interesting publication will follow. A final roundtable discussion chaired by Professor William Huang, Dean of ALON Business School Asia, will allow us to interact with professionals from China. And as Master of Ceremonies, I have to recall and remind you some rules of the game, given the nature of this conference, totally online. I invite the audience to text the questions in the comments field. So during the final Q&A session, at the end of the roundtable, the panelists will select some question to answer. So now it's time to give the floor to the President of the Chinese Globalization Association. Our president, Dr. Ilan, is professor of strategy and international marketing at the Agder University in Norway.
Welcome to the 14th annual conference of China Goes Global. We are the oldest and only conference that has been exclusively devoted to the globalization of Chinese enterprises, starting 14 years ago, at the time when the globalization of China was just beginning. By 2020, 2 American universities and 4 European universities, Rollins College and Georgia Tech in the United States, University of Macerata, University of Agder, Jacobs University, and EMBA have gathered together in a consortium to investigate the role of Chinese companies overseas. And this year, because of COVID-19, we have to do this conference online, which provides us with a new format and a new way to communicating with our audience. In addition, this year, we see a major rift beginning and opening between the United States and China, which will undoubtedly affect the globalization of Chinese enterprises and the relationship between China and the United States. This year, we have an exciting conference led by EMBA team, which brings together academics and practitioners to study and to develop new ideas and to share these ideas in a volume, in a book by Palgrave, which will come out from this conference. We look forward to having you, and we look forward to another productive and interesting conference.
Thank you so much, Ilan, for your speech. Thank you to our president. I give now the floor to Dr. Carolyn EGRI, Associate Dean of Beedie School of Business at Simon Fraser University. And let me thank her for supporting our 14th China Goes Global conference.
Hello, everyone. The Beedie School of Business at Simon Fraser University is pleased to sponsor the 14th annual China Goes Global Conference. Our sponsorship is through the Jack Austin Center for Asia Pacific Business Studies, which resides within the SFU Beedie School of Business and is led by center co-directors Jing Li and Daniel Shapiro. The center was named after Jack Austin, a former senator of Canada, to recognize his exceptional contribution to Canada-Asia relations. The center's mission is to conduct research, education, and outreach activities related to Asia-Pacific business issues. The conference theme of pandemic, globalization, and China is particularly well suited to the mission of the Jack Austin Center. Globalization is a multifaceted phenomenon with economic, cultural, and political dimensions involving interactions amongst businesses, people, and governments around the world. There are many different globalization pathways, and there is a need to understand the nature and influence of China's Belt and Road Initiative, as will be addressed during this conference. And then there is the COVID-19 pandemic that in many ways has reminded us how globally interconnected we already are and how fragile human survival can be. This global health crisis has had far-reaching, disruptive effects on how people go about their daily lives, on how businesses operate, and on how governments ensure the well-being of their citizens and economies. This global health crisis has also had disruptive effects on international relationships, trade, and commerce. We have been thrust into a crisis management mode, creating innovative responses and actions, learning what works and doesn't work, and trying to understand why this may be so in different contexts. In one respect, the pandemic provides a test of current theories of globalization and may lead to these being changed or the emergence of new theories. While we have witnessed significant and rapid changes in local, national, and international business practices, one question is whether these will continue in the long term. And if so, how will these affect the nature and trajectory of globalization, including China's Belt and Road Initiative? In closing, we had hoped to welcome you in person in Vancouver for the China Goes Global conference. However, this just was not possible this year. I would like to commend the conference organizers for transitioning to an online conference so that people from around the world could meet and share their insights and knowledge on these very important and timely topics. I wish you a most interesting and productive conference experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn, for your introduction, and thank you for supporting the 14th China Goes Global Conference. It is now time to welcome our keynote speaker, and it is my real pleasure and honor to introduce you our first keynote, Mr. Li Shufu, President of Geely Group. The speech will be in Chinese with English subtitles. The President will talk about 10 years of Geely-Volvo Globalization.
2020年啊，也就是今年，是全球经济一体化进程遇到非常困难的、非常重要的一年。这个呢，我去年的时候就说过了。当然，这个时候疫情还没有产生，现在疫情产生了就更难了。这是经济全球化和逆全球化两种不同理念进一步对冲的一年。这两种不同理念的对冲，我觉得还会持续相当长的时间。它最终可能会找到一种平衡，但这种平衡是一种什么样的状态，以什么样的形态存在，我现在还很难去这个判断。在寻找这个平衡点的过程当中呢，就会隐藏着各种各样的这种变局。这个全球格局将会因此而发生巨大的变化。所以这种巨大的变化当然有巨大挑战。那同时因为挑战的存在，也会产生一些机会。所以我们 一定要很认真的去面对这种变化。如果能够在全球化、逆全球化这样两种不同理念的对冲过程当中，找到我们自身的发展空间，这当然是一件好事。这是摆在每一个致力于全球化发展企业面前的一个非常重大的课题。这个是一个很严肃的问题。如何既符合各个国家的法律和政策，符合不同国家的这种战略，我们要与他们进行对接，同时又能找到自己的生存空间，取得发展，这需要大家不断的实践和探索，一步一步的调整，我们也要适应这种环境的变化，这种变化可能是非常巨大的。这次疫情也告诉我们，人类命运共同体，这是我们生活在同一个星球的，这是一个客观现实，我们肯定不能回避。我始终是一个开放的全球主义者，我支持全球自由贸易，因为只有自由贸易才能给大家带来更多的福利，反对狭义的民族主义和贸易保护主义，赞成中国汽车工业要更加开放，鼓励中国汽车工业更好的走向世界。这当然是我的理想，现实和理想还是有很大差别的。汽车呢，这个行业一定是一个全球化的行业，吉利通过引进来走出去，开展战略性的一种海外的并购与投资，提升全球资源的这种配置效率，实现共同发展，这个我们正在实践和探索的过程。我们还要身体力行的参与这个全球化，要真正形成你中有我，我中有你的竞争格局，通过协同分享占领技术制高点，这个是汽车行业的特点，我们都在努力的拼搏，天天为此呼吁这个身体力行。但是当今所面对的这个现实呢，逆全球化的这个势力还是比较强的，所以如何的取得生存发展这个还需要费一番功夫。整个汽车行业从过去这100多年的时间和发展，尤其是最近中国加入这个全球经济一体化这个进程当中的话，确实汽车行业发生了翻天覆地的变化。但是以前的话，基本上都是按照经济全球化投资贸易自由化这样的战略思考在推进中国汽车工业发展。但是通过这次疫情以后，我看世界各国尤其是汽车行业可能会有一些战略上的考量。我认为像中国汽车工业也应该要有这方面的思考。当这个世界经济运转遇到一些困难的时候，如何实现零部件本土化的这个及时的调整，尤其是一些核心零部件和原材料，必须要加大研发力度，要确保市场供应让消费者这个受益。这个吉利并购沃尔沃得益于全球经济一体化进程，得益于中国开放的市场和欣欣向荣的经济前景。很多人和我说，这个吉利收购沃尔沃汽车公司就是一个奇迹。其实呢，我想说这个也不是什么奇迹，只要看准了方向，尊重客观规律，然后扎扎实实的去实践推进，去努力老老实实干活，这个结果是自然而来的。所以吉利并购沃尔沃汽车公司这10年的话呢，可以说是一个美美与共的过程。沃尔沃呢在汽车行业是一个非常受人尊敬的一个品牌，一个汽车公司。我们呢当初就为沃尔沃制定了放虎归山的这样一个战略，让它找回自我，重新回到自己的山头，找回自己的市场份额，恢复往日的雄风。这10年来呢，沃尔沃的全球销量就翻了一番中国这个销量是原来的5倍，欧美市场全面增长，这个对吉利来说实现了这个人才和技术上的突破，特别是双方合作成立了这个吉利欧洲研发中心我们花了5、6年的时间 这个成功开发了这个 CMA 中结构的基础架构模块，将吉利整体的这个研发实力推向了一个世界级的水平。所以这10年来呢，汽车这个产业的发展，也是中国消费者这个非常切实的受益了从中分享了自主品牌汽车发展的这个红利。如果没有自主品牌的话，这个汽车价格是降不到今天这个样子的想想看，10年之前买一辆车子都是像奢侈品一样的，现在这个所以这样的话呢，通过自主品牌的努力中国汽车工业发展让中国消费者能够真正享受到这个超越合资品牌的这个技术和产品，而价格呢又比较公道服务又本土化，就是真正实现了物超所值。我看今后的话，中国汽车就像这个电视机、电冰箱、家用电器是一样的。我认为中国汽车一定是越来越普及，越来越便宜越来越让消费者感觉到惊喜所以吉利并购沃尔沃，对，吉利并购沃尔沃，就这10年最重要的启示就是我们要依法合规、公平透明这个在经济全球化的今天，不要玩小聪明这个玩小聪明没有出路，老老实实任何的小聪明都有可能变成非常严重的问题，产生严重的后果。因此我的第一个体会就是做人还是要实在一点比较好这个成果它自然就会产生第二的话呢，就对创新的高度重视这个创新很重要。中国车企要想这个参与全球竞争，必须要形成自己的创新能力、工程能力、设计能力必须要掌握这个核心科技，否则的话就没有话语权，更加不会受人尊重所以我们还在做的一个叫全球型的企业文化建设企业并购这是第一步，相互融合才是关键。就跨国经营与全球发展必须是相互尊重，不分肤色人种不分语言语种都是为了一个共同的商业理想、共同的商业追求而相互尊重共同发展。所以这样一点一点的，这10年的实践也证明了我们的这些理念还是比较正确的。吉利呢始终坚持以下4点：第一呢就是科技为本，创新发展；第二呢还要继续的开放包容、合作共赢；第三呢就是要坚持人才培养，以人为本全列工匠精神第4就是以市场为导向用户为中心，这是始终不变的持续的为用户创造价值这是吉利持续赢得未来的这个关键。只有持续的创新才能带动中国制造业高质量发展。中国汽车工业也只有形成自主创新能力，全面掌握核心科技，才能对世界汽车工业有更大的贡献才能得到全球同行和用户的这个尊重。谢谢你，再见。
Thank you, President Shufu, for your interesting and inspiring speech. I now give the floor to Ms. Zhang, Senior Vice President, Chief Strategy Officer, Chief Marketing Officer at Lenovo. The topic chosen is of great interest: how to rebound stronger from COVID-19, resilience in manufacturing and global supply chain.
Hello everyone, it's my pleasure to talk to you tonight via the Zoom conference for the 14th China Goes Global Conference. It's very important to hold such a dialogue as the worldwide is facing a large-scale crisis together. Today, I would like to share some of my thoughts of COVID-19 and its implications on global supply chains, as well as what we are doing at Lenovo to build a more robust and resilient manufacturing and supply chain. The year of 2020 is full of uncertainties. The ongoing pandemic of COVID-19 is not just a public health crisis. It has disturbed the global structures on so many levels that many say the world has not experienced such a difficult economic situation since World War II. The pandemic also adds momentum to the deglobalization trend, which has emerged after 2008 financial crisis. As a result, we are seeing global supply chains as one of the engines of economic globalization, facing the uncertainties of restructuring and reconfigurations. Some of policymakers declare that global supply chains create economic difficulties in time of the pandemic. With the security on top of their mind, they are talking about bringing production back home and doing everything on the supply chain by themselves. However, Lenovo, as a global company that manufactures smart devices and provides smart solutions and services to worldwide consumers and industries, we clearly see the irreplaceable role of global supply chains in driving sustainable and inclusive growth of the global economy. Global supply chains itself is not the problem, but a powerful tool to address the challenges we are facing together. In the past 4 decades, economic globalization has bound us together through international trade of goods and services, foreign direct investment, and activities of multinational companies. The rise of global supply chains enable economies to slot themselves into a part of the production chain based on their comparative advantages. Both advanced and developing countries have been able to leverage this, achieve rapid productive growth, and impressive rising in living standards and the decline in poverty. In particular, China has actively participated in the division of labor in the global supply chains and deeply integrated itself into economic globalization. By adopting reform and opening up policies some 40 years ago, China has rapidly advanced its own economic growth and industrializations. On one hand, by developing into the world factory, China has been providing companies and consumers all over the world with a wide selection of high quality and cost-effective products. On the other hand, China's economic growth has also made it the world's largest consumer market. That's why we say that in the global supply chains, all countries are interdependent and share common interests in each other's prosperity, like passengers ride in the same boat. We all have a stake in each other's future. For sure, the COVID-19 outbreak isn't an isolated event. Disruptions are getting more frequent in recent years, including geopolitical events, climate-related disasters, and public health crises. To get prepared for future black swan situations, we as companies need to build robustness and resilience in our supply chains to not only maintain operations during the crisis, but also return to normal operation as quickly as possible afterwards. So, how do we do that? Let me use Lenovo's practice during the pandemic as an example. When COVID-19 broke out, we did face quite a few short-term constraints and delays in both consumption and the supply chain. Our major smartphone factory is located in Wuhan. On top of that, our factories in Shenzhen, Hefei, and other cities in China were also kept closed by the end of January and early February. Back then, we had three immediate priorities: the health and back then we had three immediate priorities: the health and the safety of our employees, giving support in whatever way we can to help contain and fight against the virus, and ensure the continuity of our production. Thanks to the flexibility and the resilience of Lenovo manufacturing, we were able to stabilize our supply chain and resume production in a most efficient manner. We have more than 30 manufacturing sites around the world as COVID-19 hit different areas of the world at different points in time. We managed to navigate and leverage the diversity of our market demand and manufacturing sites to adjust capacity and rebalance production. In the earlier stage of the pandemic, when Lenovo's manufacturing in China was forced to stop, our factories in Brazil, India, Mexico, US, India, and Japan continued to operate to produce enough smartphones, PCs, and servers to meet demand in the Chinese and overseas markets. And then in March, when we had to shut our operations in some overseas sites temporarily, the factories in China have resumed production. With the working from home and study at home become the new normal, we are seeing a surge in demand for PCs, tablets, and monitors. The strong demand helped accelerate the recovery of our capacity in China. Ensuring the continuity of production is critical, but the quick recovery of capacity afterwards is even more challenging. Here at Lenovo, as the result of all the hard work put in by our employees, as well as the smart manufacturing technologies we have developed and applied in our factories, we not only returned to full capacity as soon as early April, but also continuously broke daily, weekly, and monthly production records. Take our largest PC manufacturing based in Hefei, Anhui Province, as an example. With the smart production planning system, we successfully shortened the scheduling time from 6 hours per day to 1.5 minutes. Besides, we also applied a smart management system such as smart manufacturing, smart quality control, and smart supply chain control towers. Through the collaboration of smart devices, edge computing, cloud computing, 5G networking, and AI, we have greatly reduced operating costs and improved operational efficiency and production quickly. By fully leveraging the robust and resilient global supply chains that we have built and strengthened, Lenovo was able to mitigate the impact of the pandemic and delivered a strong performance amid the pandemic. As you can see, Lenovo believes firmly in globalization, but we also see the actual demands on some kind of correction to take place. Looking forward, the post-pandemic world maybe enter a new era of globalization. For Lenovo, we put it as global sourcing and local delivery. Global in the sense that we source talents globally. Lenovo's employees and the leadership team are are from all over the world, speaking more than 100 languages. Our operation culture, our corporate culture is diverse and inclusive. Global also means that we source R&D, manufacturing parts, and materials globally, and we sell to customers globally. All products, solutions, and services sold to 180 markets, serving 1 billion customers worldwide. Our revenue are geographically balanced across all major markets around the world. Local in the sense that we hire local talent to develop local capacities. We hold compliance and business ethics to the highest standards everywhere we operate. We respect local culture and we contribute to the local community as a responsible corporate citizen. Since the start of Lenovo globalization journey in 2005, after we acquired IBM PC division, we have been committed to sourcing and integrating the world's best source into the entire process of all R&D, production, supply, distribution, and services to provide consumers around the world with the products of the highest quality and the best experience. Lenovo's iconic laptop, ThinkPad X1 Carbon, is a perfect example. It has 129 major components sourced globally. The operating system comes from the United States, the memory from South Korea, the processor from Malaysia, the key components on the motherboards from France and Vietnam, and the battery, keyboard, interface are manufactured in China. The laptop is developed in Japan, designed in the United States, manufactured in China, and sold in nearly 180 markets worldwide. The full range of activities involves different suppliers from a number of countries. This combined global and local approach is not only necessary for business development, but more importantly, it helps us deliver our vision of smart technology for all. We want to develop world-changing technologies that create a more inclusive, trustworthy, and sustainable society for everyone, everywhere. The coronavirus will pass, as all do. If we want the world to be stronger, smarter, and more resilient coming out of it, we will have to strengthen cooperation and propose innovative solutions to global challenges with a global mindset. In the most urgent fight against the pandemic, cooperation and the global supply chain is not doubt the most powerful weapon. The mass production of a COVID-19 vaccine will require international cooperation among scientists, medical experts, and tech companies. Scaling up production to allow the greatest number of people to benefit from the vaccine in the shortest time possible can be achieved only through international research and production networks. As for Lenovo, we are determined for future development of our global business by making bigger efforts to localize our operations and integrate the Chinese industry cluster with the overseas markets in which we operate. We will work together with our global partners to build an inclusive, cooperative, mutually beneficial global economy. Again, thank you for your attention. and I wish you continue to enjoy the inspiring roundtable session. Good morning for participants from North America, good afternoon for friends in Europe, and good night for participants in Asia. Stay safe and be strong.
Thank you, Ms. Zhang, for raising such interesting issue and describing the challenges of resilience in manufacturing and global supply chain. We can now start the next session that is dedicated to the report release of top 100 Chinese companies by contribution to the Belt and Road Initiative host countries. The report will be presented and discussed by Mr. Da Wen, Chairman and Editor-in-Chief of National Business Daily, by Professor Jung-Sung Chen, Director of Global DBA Asia Track, Assistant Dean of Lyon Business School Asia, DBA Advisor at Lyon Business School, and by Ms. Suying Lan, Senior Editor at NBD International Communications Center.
尊敬的各位嘉宾、各位朋友，大家晚上好。首先，我代表每日经济新闻，祝本届中国企业全球化论坛圆满成功。作为中国领先的财经媒体，2004年12月9日，每日经济新闻诞生于上海，之后成长于成都。目前，每日经济新闻用中文和英文向包括中国在内的全球超过6000万人传播财经资讯和新闻。去年，我们在成都举办的“一带一路”商协会对话与合作年会上，发布了“一带一路”中国企业100强在地贡献研究报告，引起了政企两界的重大关注。在此，要特别感谢我们的合作方法国里昂商学院，感谢王校长。从2016年起，每日经济新闻与法国里昂商学院开启紧密合作，共同发起了美好商业项目，对品牌、商业、可持续发展等议题进行了更深度的研究和更广泛的传播。“一带一路”中国企业100强在地贡献研究报告也是双方合作的研究成果之一。目前，每日经济新闻与里昂商学院合作的第2季报告正在筹备中。这季报告关注的议题之一是探讨新冠之下的企业社会责任与企业全球化发展之间的关系。这不仅与中国，更与全球，甚至全人类紧密相关。在此，我们欢迎更多的研究者、企业加入进来，与我们共同探讨美好商业与美好社会、美好星球之间的关系。最后，预祝因疫情在网上举办的第14届 CGG 论坛圆满成功。谢谢大家。
Thanks a lot for Mr. Wen's insightful speech.
In this year's conference, we have added a very special part. This is about a report. Last Lyon Business School has worked jointly with China National Business Daily, and we have produced a report. And this report is called Top 100 Chinese Companies by Contributions to Belt and Road Initiative. I am Jun-Song Chen from Lyon Business School, and with me is the senior editor, Suying Lan from National Business Daily. So, Suying, could you please kindly introduce us the basic background of this project?
Okay. Currently, the network of the Belt and Road Initiative has spanned across over 100 countries in Asia, Europe, Africa, and Latin America. Chinese companies have won high praises with their investment in these countries, but still face huge risks in investment and operation due to insufficient attention to the sustainable development. The law for operation, environmental protection, and fulfillment of corporate social responsibilities are therefore becoming ever more important for Chinese companies. Against this background, National Business Daily worked with Lyon Business School to release a report entitled Top 100 Chinese Companies by Contribution to BRI Host Countries, based on thorough investigation and research. providing reference and index system for green investment and development. Dr. Chen, what do you think is the biggest feature of this report?
I think I saw three important features from this report. First, from the methodology perspective, this report has constructed a model which has measured the Chinese companies' contribution to the BRI host countries. And second, it has outlined the globalization paths of the Chinese companies. Over the past decade, the Chinese company has experienced fast growth of going international. The BRI has certainly accelerated this process. And third, the report has not only measured the local contribution of the Chinese companies, it also measured the international image of the Chinese companies. So overall speaking, this report has adopted a very innovative method in developing the contribution index by incorporating multiple factors, such as the economy, investment, the social factors, and the corporate governance. So maybe, Soyin, can you please tell us how to interpret the contribution index and what kind of local contributions we are looking at?
Our index systems focuses on four aspects. The first, return on foreign investment. The second, ESG. The third, increase of corporate value. And the fourth, investment value in investment recipient countries. The influence of Chinese companies is increasing year by year in the Belt and Road construction. Their contribution to the investment recipient countries couldn't be measured simply by financial indicators. Benefits of social value should also be counted in addition to financial performances. As we all know, green and sustainable approaches are essential to high quality development of the Belt and Road Initiative. That's why we brought in the ESG assessment system. ESG namely the environmental, social, and governance measures the sustainability and societal impact of an investment. So the adoption of an ESG-based investment philosophy is conducive to the sustainable development of countries and regions along the Belt and Road. So we've noticed that private companies played an increasingly vital role in the Belt and Road construction in recent years. Dr. Chen, what's your take on this phenomenon?
Yes. So far, the state-owned enterprises are still the main forces in the BRI initiatives, especially in the fields of infrastructure, energy, and resources. But the private companies are playing an increasingly important role in the Road Belt initiatives, I believe. In terms of the international trade, Chinese private companies have contributed more than 40% of China's total foreign trade. In terms of the investment, the Chinese private companies also accounts for 30% of China outward investment, foreign direct investment. And for the top 500 Chinese private companies, almost 60% of them are already participated in the BRI development. The private companies in China has two important features. First, we have very flexible mechanism. The second is they can react towards the market very quickly. So their participation in the BRI will certainly increase, becoming more important in the coming years. The BRI actually has covered many fields. So I would like to know which industry may have more advantage in terms of the sustainable investment. What is your opinion on this?
A number of countries and regions along the route actually have a fragile ecological environment. So they are really in urgent need of changes in economic development mode. So compared with projects that cause high pollution and high emissions, eco-friendly and energy-saving projects will be more favored. Now, China's environmental protection enterprises are stepping up their efforts of going global and providing countries and regions along the Belt and Road route with excellent experience in green development. So particularly in the field of water treatment, solid waste treatment, water incineration, and water supply. So green finance will also have huge potential for development in those countries, as there would have strong demand for green and sustainable infrastructure such as green energy. This would require a great deal of investment, and green finance could use a variety of financial tools and means of transactions to guarantee the capital supply for those projects and facilitate the further cooperation among different entities, such as private foundations and institutional investors. Dr. Chen, could you share with us the trends in Chinese enterprises' outbound investment in the past 2 decades?
Yes, there has been a very big shift in the last 2 decades. Overall speaking, there is a diversified and upgrading trend in terms of China outbound investment. China investment actually started with energy and chemicals. In 2006, it actually expanded to agriculture, transportation, and real estate. Then gradually it expanded to higher technology industry and finance. Then it moved to entertainment and tourist service. I think after 2015, the investment also entered the public sector, the public utilities industry. So it actually shows a shift from the resource-based industry to capital-intensive industries with a tendency of upgrading to high technology. Do you think, do Chinese companies choose a particular pattern in choosing the investment regions when they are participating in the Belt and Road Initiative? What is your thoughts on this?
According to our investigation, China's foreign direct investment mostly flew to Southeast Asia, North Asia, Central Asia, and Middle East, primarily our neighbors geographically. In particular, 10 ASEAN countries received more investment than any other countries and regions along the road from the Chinese companies. So the Belt and Road constructions has significant influence on countries and regions along the Belt and Road. Dr. Chen, in your opinion, in what ways has the initiative influenced them apart from the economic development?
I think the influence is multifold. China investment on BRI has created a large number of job opportunities, actually. According to a recent survey by China Central Television, CCTV, which has investigated about 10,000 respondents. And for 3 out of every 10 respondents believed that they can get a job offered by the Chinese company. So this is also a big influence. Another important impact actually is in the field of healthcare. China has cooperated with the Ministry of Health and the medical schools and other departments in the host countries in providing medical tenants training, public health service, etc. And also the traditional Chinese medicine is also becoming very popular among the host countries. So one more thing I want to mention is about education. The BRI has increased the culture exchange between China and the BRI host countries. China by now has signed the degree recognition program agreements with more than 40 countries. And more and more people are showing more interest towards Chinese language and Chinese culture. So this is a very big cultural impact I see in the BRI development.
So more information about Chinese enterprises' contribution to countries and regions along the Belt and Road route could be found in our report. The second volume of our report series is also in the works. And one of the focuses of the new report will be the relationship between corporate social responsibility and globalization in the context of epidemic. I'm really looking forward to the news release. Thank you for having us here today. Wish the China Goes Global Conference a huge success.
All the best. Thank you.
We had very interesting insights from the report on the Belt and Road Initiative and from this session. So I'm really grateful to Mr. Wang, Professor Chen, and Ms. Lan. Now we come to the final part of our Day 2 conference. And as we anticipated, we will have a final roundtable discussion. The roundtable will be moderated by my colleague and friend, William Hua Huang. William is member of the Chinese Globalization Association. He is Associate Dean of Lyon Business School, Dean of Lyon Business School Asia, and French Dean of Asia Europe Business School. We have 3 panelists with us today. We have Dr. Yao Li, Chief Investment Officer of International Finance Corporation of World Bank Group, East Asia and Pacific. Then we have Mr. Pangfen Chen. He's founder and CEO of Chuhai001.com management consulting company. He's also author of Huawei Globalization. And the last panelist is Mr. Stephen Zhang, Managing Director, Chief Economist, Head of Research at Morgan Stanley Washington Securities. I give the floor to William for chairing this session.
Thanks, Francesca. Hi, everybody. I'm Professor Wang, Associate Dean of EMBA Business School and also the core member of China Goes Abroad Association. So tonight we have the privilege to welcome 3 distinguished guests to join this roundtable discussion. So again, a very warm welcome to you all. As we have learned from the keynote speech of Mr. Li Shufu from Geely and Mrs. Chao Jian from Lenovo, the future global supply chain is an important topic. So we would like to hear from you, your analysis on this topic. So who would like to start first?
Let me start first. So basically, you know that Morgan Stanley have done also a lot of research on the supply chain. You know that the global markets and global investors have great concern about the supply chain issue. Basically, we found the result from our analysis show that there are a lot of factors that affect the post-COVID-19 supply chain, global supply chain. The number one reason is the organic offshore revenue growth. So this is number one. Number 2 reason is the new markets and segments of the revenue growth. You see, so the first 2 major reasons are still the economic one. So other also non-economic factors also affect the global supply chain. For example, the post-COVID-19 will affect the corporate strategy, also the ongoing trade tension between the China and the US, also the economic and national security concern or policy changes of the different countries. So all these factors will affect the global companies' strategy about the supply chain. So for supply chain, I think it's still open question. So we need to wait and see the developments.
Yeah. Okay, so how about Dr. Li?
I think supply chain is so important for all countries, but I believe especially for developing countries, because supply chain actually has a very strong, significant spillover impact and a trickle-down impact to the less developed countries. So therefore, value chain operation smoothly, then the developing countries will benefit a lot. If not, then it's disaster for the less developed countries. Thank you.
Yeah, especially from the perspective of how the industrial basis can be further developed in those developing countries. Thank you, Dr. Li. And for sure, Huawei is a hot topic about the significant reconfiguration of the global supply chain. So, Mr. Chen Panfeng.
Thank you. Well, 2019 and 2020 is a special year because everybody is talking about the US is blocking Huawei, but I think globalization is a trend which nobody can take it back. I would say all of the companies, if you want to make it bigger and strong, global supply chain, and also to place your R&D and also put your sales, your service, and also your branding in a global strategy is quite critical for the future development. Thank you.
Yes, what we can see that at the case of Huawei, there's also the local the localization as what we mentioned, that the R&D sites are dispatched in different continents, and also the the regional sales teams. And how about the manufacturing side? Is that also following that trend of dispatching to different continents? In the case of
actually, Huawei's R&D are in different kind of countries, and Huawei's sales office and service office are already in more than 170 countries. But most of the manufacturing are taking place in China.
Okay. Yes. So here is again there will be a kind of the new scope of the study, right, on that part of the of the business. Okay, so let's move to Mr. Stephen Zhang. So you are the Managing Director, Chief Economist, and Head of Research at Morgan Stanley Huaxin Securities. I have two questions to you. The first one is, as global economy is slowly recovering from the COVID-19, investors are debating about the trajectory of global recovery, such kind of a V shape or kind of the W shape. What is your view and why? So this is my first question. And the second question is the globalization is also widely discussed, by press, by the business community. So what is your view about the evolution of globalization in the next few years?
Thank you for the question. So this is two very good questions. So for the first question, basically, recently we have seen the macro indicators show that the recovery of the global economy is already underway from the May. So basically, we expect that the global GDP will trough in the second quarter of this year and reach the positive 3% by the first quarter of next year. So as you know that China has already recorded a positive growth in the second quarter of this year, which is China is first in, first out of this COVID-19. So broadly speaking, we will expect a V-shaped recovery for China and for global economy. There are a couple of reasons for that. Number one is that this COVID-19 is not an endogenous imbalance triggered by the structural problems. Number two is that the deleveraging pressure during the COVID-19 pandemic is much more moderate than the great financial crisis, which we saw 10 years ago. And number three is that the policy support has been, we see, is very decisive and sizable, and also very effective at boosting the economy. So, for example, this round of policy easing has been very timely and significant in scale, and most importantly, coordinated across the countries we have seen. And also, we have the coordination between the monetary and fiscal policy. So all these see that we will see the global economy in the second half of this year and next year will be a V-shaped recovery. Of course, there are some risk to our forecast. For example, the ongoing still spreading of the COVID-19 in developing countries, emerging markets like India, Brazil, and also we see some risk from the trade tension and also the uncertainty from the U.S. election. So this is for the first question. For the second question, you know that for the the global for the global environment post the COVID-19, we have seen the trend of the shifting away from the unipolar, the Washington consensus, when the world appeared convergent politically and economically, also socially. But during the post-COVID-19 days, we believe the world will transition to a multipolar structure. It turns out that the multipolar world is far more complex than the short-handed narratives of the so-called the deglobalization or decoupling. We would rather to use one word, which is the slowbalization. So this word is an idea first from a Dutch academic who is Eddie Bakkers. So he said that the trend of globalization would naturally slow as a consequence of unsuccess in reaching the emerging economies. So under this globalization environment, we expect 5 mega trends. The first one is the China-US tension will continue. So the US-China will increasingly compete directly in multiple areas, such as the technology, national security, healthcare, policies, financial markets, and corporate governance. Number 2, the Europe, Japan, and the rest of the world will take the balancing strategy in China and the US. For example, Europe lacks a clear mechanism or incentive for addressing the challenges to its interconnected nature to both China and US. So the negotiations of the European countries with China and China or US are often complicated by its two-track relationship with both markets, because the Europe always both at the same time act as a customer and competitors to China and the US. So this is also the same case for Japan. So number 3 trend is the multilateralism is in retreat. So consensus-based mechanisms have proved suited to the negotiations between an increasingly large, diverse membership of the international organizations. For example, recently, the U.S. decision to block the appointment of new members to the WTO, which is undermine the ability to settle the mechanism of the WTO dispute settlement. So number 4, the alternative development models are being offered. For example, we have seen improved Sino-Russia relationships, and also the emergence of the China Belt and the Road initiatives and the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, and so on. The last but not least, the healthcare security is also concerns lead to the globalization. The COVID-19 pandemic has triggered the global debates about the economic self-sufficiency versus the efficiency. So even more broadly than in the healthcare space. So national policy responses are still emerging, but at the corporate level, we have already seen the company looking to the further diversification of the supply chains. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So we still can see that the situation will be pretty complex. You take an example as China as the starting point to say that there will be a very possible V shape of a recovery, starting from late this year, then the first quarter of next year. And again, we are still not sure. As also what you mentioned that how the COVID-19 will impact the developing countries, which are still on the way, right? So this is a kind of the uncertainty. And by listening carefully about your analysis about the globalization, we also find that it's a very complex situation, mixing with different policy makers by different nations and the public health care factors as a kind of a new factor that being integrated into the joint decision making process, the public and the private process. So we still need to take a closer look on how will be the future evolution of this globalization, as you mentioned. Okay, now I would like to invite Dr. Yao Li So you are the Chief Investment Officer of International Finance Corporation of World Bank Group, East China and the Pacific. And you have 23 years of experience in the financial field and have deep understanding on the Asian market and South-South cooperation. I have two questions to you. First, what is your observation about the situation that Chinese companies are facing in Asia and Africa during this epidemic? How do they react? And then if we look forward, what are opportunities are there in the near future? So this is my first question. And secondly is, how can international financial organizations to help private companies to overcome this very difficult time? Yes, please.
Thank you, William. Thank you for this chance. Actually, we know pandemic has a negative impact on this global economy.
Yeah.
It has this global recession. Actually, it's the deepest in the past decades. Especially for the developed countries, this is the less developed countries suffered more because of this is less developed. The collapse of this is informal economy, for example, and the stop of almost stop of this is capital inflow, and the collapse of this is informal labor market. A lot of things collapse of this is remittances, all the things. So that's why it's so important for these countries to support each other. That's why it's support we just discussed to maintain and recover this is supply chains, so that every country participating in this supply chain can benefit. According to China's Ministry of the Commerce, China's outbound investment in the first half year of this year actually dropped a little bit, less than 1% by statistics. So the good thing is that China's outbound investment to these developed countries, especially to these BNR, Belt and Road Initiative countries, over 50 countries, the job actually increased dramatically, like 24% of this total China investment. Yeah. But you see, although this is all this investment, outbound investment to these developed countries, to Asia, to Africa, is only about 16%.
Okay.
But compared with last year, this percentage already increased like 3.5%, which means all investment by China companies to these developed countries, to Asia, to these African markets actually make a lot of contribution to total investment, ongoing investment by Chinese companies. So it's quite important. So you just mentioned that the risks, challenges, or the opportunities for Chinese companies to out. This is so important for them to support, to continue their ongoing initiatives and their efforts in these emerging markets. So this is the first question you just mentioned. Yeah. Second question, you mentioned that how this is
yes.
Okay, how this is multilateral this financial institutions play in addressing this pandemic. I can give you some cases to show that the global financial system, especially for this multilateral, this developmental organization, is playing, is operating. For example, World Bank and IFC, World Bank Group actually announced a huge comprehensive package to support the recovery of this from this pandemic. For example, World Bank has a program called DSSI means Debt Service Suspension Initiative. This is important, and also they mentioned, they proposed like debt reduction, debt resolution, and of course important for this is capacity building, like debt transparency program, also important, especially for IFC. IFC actually announced a program, $12 billion loan and equity program to support recovery, especially private sector. This is so significant. And for this ADB, another so important, this is financial organization. They announced, very aggressively announced, $20 billion package. All this is assistance package to address this, to fight against this COVID-19, along with these Asian countries. Most of them are developing countries. And of course, a lot of this private sector will benefit from this assistance package. Another case I want to share with you is the AIIB. AIIB just celebrate this 5th anniversary. It also announced very comprehensive and aggressive package called Crisis Recovery Facility, $5 to $10 billion. This actually support not only this is public sector, also the private sector. So you can see from these cases, all these multilateral financial institutions are acting, are working, are operating. So this is the international system to address this crisis.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Lee. And to make a very quick summary, what we see that contrary to the slowdown of the Chinese GDP growth, we still observe the positive, moderate increase in terms of the investment, outbound investment by the Chinese companies to developing countries, and in particular the BRI, regions. And financial organizations are also playing important role to boost both the public and the private sector. So thank you again, Dr. Lee. And here I would like to invite Mr. Chen Panfeng. So you are the founder and the CEO of a management consulting company named Chuohai001.com. And congratulations also on your book being published this year for the Huawei Globalization. So you used to work as a deputy chief representative of Huawei in Chile, and has 13 years of experience in the field of operations and sales in Huawei Europe and Latin America. So I have two questions to you. So what are those key words to describe the corporate culture of Huawei? And the second question is, what are the linkage between Huawei's corporate culture and Huawei's globalization?
Okay, thank you, William, for your question. And actually, as you know, these 2 years, Huawei has been very hot in the media these years. And actually, in my book, I was trying to explain to the people what are the key components of Huawei globalization. Actually, I tried to answer your second question first. Because, okay. Yes, I actually introduced the 15 aspects, among how Huawei do this. Yes, I introduced many areas, but I put the corporate culture as number one. Why I put this as number one? Because I think that makes Huawei unique and also different to other companies. And I also consider is because of Huawei unique and also international and also company culture, that make Huawei was very successful in the global market. So that was the second question. And for the first question, talk about Huawei culture. Actually, many people will know that there's a wolf culture, and Huawei also paying a lot of attention to R&D, has a technology-oriented company, and Huawei also introduced a lot of international management system from other companies. But for me, I was thinking actually 3 keywords to describe Huawei culture. Number one, as customer oriented. Number two, as diligence, and number three, as open and keep learning. And I will give a very brief introduction. For first one, customer oriented, which explains that Huawei, not only in China but also worldwide, we were trying to focus on the customers' demand or customers' need. For example, in a lot of natural disasters like earthquakes, many of the company left the customer, and Huawei engineers always trying to stay in the country and also trying to restore the telecommunication system as soon as possible. And number two, as diligence. As we all know, Huawei people working very hard, and I think because it's in telecom area, most of the competitors like Nokia, Siemens, they already have more than 100 years of history, and Huawei only has 30 years. So when we go to international market, people really work very hard. And number three, which I personally, as a Huawei people, we always trying to open our mind and keep learning, because there are many things to learn actually in the global market, and I think Huawei was a very good learner and keep learning all the time. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. In fact, that really invite us to read your book. Currently, it is the Chinese version, and we do wish that even probably EMBA Business School can work together with you and help you to also in the near future, if that is also your project, to publish the English version of this book. Okay, thank you. So my next question, I hope that all the guests will express your thoughts. We have found that the communication has become an increasingly important, and in the context of changing global geopolitical landscape, how can globalized company effectively make cross-cultural management in the forthcoming years? Yes, who would like to start first? Maybe Dr. Lee or?
Yeah, sure. This is so important to address this pandemic and challenge this. We believe communication is so important, and I personally believe that everyone should hold the target to build up the trust, because the trust is so important. Secondly is the credibility, to build up this credibility through this doing and speaking, and so this is trust building and credibility building. So therefore, I'm thinking four words to share with everyone. One is the positive. Secondly is the transparency. Third is the positioning. Fourth is the values sharing. So this is a PTPV. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, very good summary. Yeah, thank you. And Chen Pengfeng?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, my experience shows that the cross-culture communication is really important, because, for example, Huawei has operation in more than 170 countries. And not only there's a cultural difference, and also there's a religion difference. And people are from different backgrounds. So if we cannot understand each other or work as a team, you will never succeed in your business. So in this, I would say it's very complicated, to make this. It's easy to say, and you are not going to resolve the problem, permanently or 100%. I would say there will be there's always space to improve on this. But to my understanding, one of the most important things, you have to respect the differences, different employee, different, people from different country and backgrounds. And secondly, I would say keep it result oriented. Only when we finish the target or we achieve the target, then company will have the business success, and for the person, you will have also your career development. So that's also a common value. And number three, which I consider, like Dr. Lee was saying, keep it transparent, and you have to communicate maybe many times, and also deeply trying to align your target first, because sometimes even in China, people from South China and North China, you talk about the same language, but you will think about different things. So imagine if you think in Chinese and tell the local in English, and the people translate back to French or to Italian or Spanish, then you are going to think in different versions, and that's actually start, the misunderstanding, and also you are going to have the different results. And for example, nowadays we are not talking face to face, and we are talking by video conference. So we definitely cannot, it's easy to say we use a common language, which we are using English, but I think cross-culture communication is very complicated, I would say, only based on your experience. And you have to spend time with your people. You have to really understand each other. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for Planfeng. It is true. And then, when we see that companies are stressing much in the hard skill side, like technology, innovation things. And the more and more people are aware about the importance of the soft skill side, like the cross-cultural communication management. Huge amount of the negative cases have illustrated the importance of this topic about communication, cross-cultural management. Yeah, thank you very much. And we are approaching to the end of this roundtable session. Time really flies. So by the end, I would like to invite you to give one suggestion in one sentence to Chinese companies going global.
So my suggestion is that given the complex global environment and associated uncertainties, my suggestion will be very simple. Just 4 words: be brave and be humble.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. I just share with everyone. There is a Chinese old saying. When you are facing this crisis, just do your best to convert the crisis into opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Dr. Li. Yes. And Planfeng.
From my side, I think globalization is a trend and an opportunity. Chinese companies need to take the lead after the COVID pandemic for globalization. Thank you.
Thank you for the participation of this roundtable discussion. And as you can see that, this is a very important topic as the organization of China Goes Abroad. We have organized this year is the 14th year that we are organizing this academic topic and interaction with you, business practitioners. And we are going to keep on moving forward to have this type of interaction here from different point of view, and try to also put our intellectual input on this important topic. And now let's move to the Q&A session. And we are now collecting questions from the audience, and wish that you can give us some feedback in the coming session. So we will come back very soon. Okay. Thank you again. Questions from the participants. Just give me several seconds. I will take a look. The first question is, Thanks for everyone to share this session with us. I would like to get the panelists' opinion about the trending economic internal circulation situation of all the main countries and the regions. What role will the globalization take in the future among top leading countries in the world? So who would like to answer this question?
I think this is a very good question. I would like to take these two questions. Okay, so for the question about the inner circulation, yes, I just want to use a China example. Recently, the central government of China have a policy initiation which is a dual circulation, in which the domestic circulation takes the leading role, while the international circulation remains extensive. So, which means China in the next few years will attach more importance in internal domestic circulation. So the reason why the Chinese government want to initiate this big strategy, that is because in the next few years, China is facing a more challenging international economic and political environment externally. So that is China is now accelerate the economic restructure and to rely more on the domestic demand. I think this is good for China because in the past like 2 decades, the Chinese economic development heavily rely on the external demand. Simply say rely on the export. So you know that China is a huge country, so which has a very large domestic market. So it is good for China to boost the domestic demand to which is not only will benefit China's own corporates or companies, which also will benefit the rest of the world because you know that 1.5 billion people's market, which means a lot of demand for the external countries for other countries. So for the second question, so in the panel, I already mentioned that in the future, I think the globalization will not jump from one extreme to another extreme, which means we don't agree that in the next few years we will see deglobalization or decoupling between the China or US or China US with the rest of the world. We just have a scenario of slow polarization, which is world combined with slow and globalization, which means the globalization will be slower in the next few years or next decade, but will never stop or reversed. So, which means in the world, in the next few years or decades, we were shifting away from the Washington consensus, which from a unipolar world to a multipolar world. So in a multipolar world, China, US, and other leading economies or countries such as the EU, Japan, will work together to build a new mechanism to cooperate or settle, distribute. So this, of course, will take time. You know that this is not easy. So Washington consensus has work or function for several decades. Now we need a new mechanism to replace that. So it is not easy. So in the next few years, we'll see a lot of debate or conflict among the major economies. But we still hold an optimistic view about it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Stephen. As what you have described, right? From one side, we stress probably a little bit too much about the internal circulation, and in fact, it's a dual circulation, and we can't see or imagine that there will be a sudden shutdown on the exportation as a kind of the engine of the growth. And also, as we understand that in China, if you take a look on, you know, the middle part and the west part. Still, there are a big potential in terms of the growth, and recently different ministries from China have also released different positive signals in terms of attracting foreign direct investment, including financial field, and of course we are in the business school, so even in the education field. So those are a more nuanced way talking about that question. Thank you. I have also received another question. Say, despite the unpleasant sanitary impact of COVID-19, hasn't this been an exceptional accelerator towards more digitally integrated supply chain? So probably I think that Pan Feng, Mr. Chen, would you like to share some thoughts on this point?
Okay, and I think this is a good question as well. It is a very good forecast, because it's out of most of the people's exception that COVID-19 came in 2020. And I would like to give 3 examples to say it will be an accelerator for most of the business go to digitize the supply chain in the future. If we look at the number 1 example, in 2002, actually the SARS came to the world, with out of all of us exception. And at the moment, actually, traditionally, we Chinese people are also going to the shops to do the shopping, but afterwards, we all stay at home doing the shopping by Alibaba, and that changed China, in this area, and now we are leading on online shopping, actually. So this is 1 example proved to be true. And secondly, if I take my personal example, I was in business trip in Latin America and United States at the beginning of the year, in January and February. At that moment, I was urgently called by Chinese friends to ship masks from abroad to China. So I closed all of the business online in a hotel, and I check all the goods and close the contract and send everything, make the payment, everything was digitized, I would say. And when I came back to China, I thought everything has over. And then, the Latin America and United States started COVID-19. So I started the business again in China. I closed everything online, So by these media, social media, Zoom or even WeChat, WhatsApp, all of these digitized tools. And number 3, I would say during the previous 20 years, we Chinese has been proved to be leading the globalization was on hardwares. We have produced a lot of machineries, cars, and also a lot of high technology products. And actually, we were not good at making softwares. And I would say nowadays, if you see TikTok, it has been just very few years, go to the most frequent downloaded softwares, and also WeChat. I would say in the future, in this area, Chinese also prove to be very much talented. And I think we will be having more and more digitized supply chain in the future, definitely. So okay. I do believe that. Thank you.
Thanks, Pan Feng. And I also received another question that is also linking with our, roundtable discussion. It mentioned questions for the speakers. Trust is essential to collaboration in the increasingly interdependent world. In your views, what are the behaviors that inspire trust when key stakeholders feel the competitive pressures from each other? So who would like to, hear?
Yeah, William, I can try this question.
Yes.
I believe this question related to aspects. One aspect is the trust lost. Another aspect is the trust building. Why trust lost in the past years? My idea is that the main reason is the imbalance of the growth among the different nations, different countries. Because of this imbalance, the poverty issues become very serious. The competition landscape changed dramatically. So this is the wealth distribution among the countries also dramatically changes. In this way, because of this competition become so fierce, and then the trust among these competitors or among these friends before actually gradually lost. So I believe this is the fundamental issue, trust lost because of this imbalance of the growth. Of course, this is become worse because of this political tricks, or this is culture, so-called culture conflicts, all the things. But anyway, this trust so important for us, as Fukuyama mentioned in his famous book. Trust is essential in this society. If it is lost in our perspective, then how we can rebuild this trust? So this is trust building. So I give some points from my perspective. I believe the first thing is that to continue to improve the game rules, existing game rules, global these game rules. So important for us, we should respect, and we should continue to improve and to make them better. Second thing I think is quite important is that to respect and to strengthen, to improve the global governance. Because this is global governance planning, then we believe that the small countries, big countries, these developed countries, less developed countries can follow this common understanding and following the leading of the leadership of this international governance. In this way, we believe that all the countries can support each other, share the same goals. Third thing I think is very important is that the G2G cooperation, especially 2G, means American and United States and China, how they can play leading role globally. Because of this government, especially for the large nations, how they can take responsibilities, how they can demonstrate that their how to see this is a willingness to help others. This is key, because we believe that this is the prosperity actually originated from this kindness, from this human kinds of kindness, willing to help each other. So this is quite important, especially for large countries, to demonstrate the leadership. I think another point I want to share with is that how this is mutual respects demonstrated to each other. This is quite important because especially before this is a pandemic, a lot of less developed countries suffered so much. So in the next coming days, we believe that this is the mutual trust, mutual respects, so important to help each other. So especially for the less developed countries, how they can benefit from this trust, from this globalization, from this is a bilateral relationship, and multilateral relationship is important. The last thing I think, sorry, just give me 1 minute. Yeah. The last thing is the sharing. As we just mentioned during these discussions, sharing is so important. Sharing actually is kind of a demonstration of this trust. Sharing is nowadays the important is that sharing this knowledge, sharing this technology, because developed countries actually demonstrate actually control, hold this most part of this technology and all this prosperity. In this way, how to share with each other is so important. So actually, this sharing actually can bring very important impacts in economics. We said it is called trickle down or spillover impact. If we have this spillover impact and the trickle down impact, so we believe in the in the coming future, the countries, especially a little bit less developed countries, the countries in difficulties can benefit from this globalization. Actually, this will benefit from this trust. So this is my sharing. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Li. In summary, that whatever at the corporate level or at the government-to-government level, there's the need to reach a kind of win-win situation. If there is the disequilibrium between these two, then the perception on the trust is destabilized. And so again, in such a way, what you said, that the sharing, the spillover effect to narrow down this type of disequilibrium, right? It's a win, minimize the win-lose situation. That is the critical point. And I have another question, because the time is approaching. It's the question is, let me check. Can China take the lead for the most environmentally friendly car and the ground transportation? So this is a more industrial auto, question raised by Cordula Barzantni. Okay, so I would like to, answer this question. As what you can see, that China has already become the biggest electric vehicle, nation. In terms of the production and the sales. Just to give you the figure, in 2018, for example, among the top 20 EV car producers, including Tesla, Nissan, Toyota, Mitsubishi, whatever, among those top manufacturers, Chinese car models have represented 47% of the market share and taking 11 seats. So these are, this type of a market leadership and including manufacturing power has been demonstrated by figures. And also China has become the battlefield for Chinese and, the international car makers. And in terms of the mobility, the smart mobility is part of the strategy of manufacturing, 2025, China strategy 2025. So in fact, I'm on the way to write a book about the Geely, and one chapter is dedicated to the mobility part, and hope that by the end of next year, I can publish this book, and we can release more information about that. So very sorry, due to the very limited time, we have to close this roundtable discussion and the Q&A session. And I will give the floor back to MC, our also one of our core member, Zhang. It will take a little bit, several seconds, so let's welcome Zhang. Zhang, please.
And an insightful roundtable which inspires us. Health, economic, globalization, and
kernel of hope for all of us as we travel through these very difficult times. I want to remind you all that we have a third day event tomorrow morning, and encourage all of you to attend our Friday session. On behalf of the Chinese Globalization Association, thank you for being part of our event today. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Okay, I think that it is the end of the second day of China Goes Global conference, right? So Francesca,
yes.
Close the second day.
Yeah, thank you, William. So I would like to thank all the keynoters, panelists, and of course, all the staff of the Lyon Business School Asia, yourself and Jessica, of course, for the amazing job you are doing these days. And I also would like to thank all our sponsors and supporters. First of all, the Beedie School of Business, Fraser University, of course, all the other sponsors that are with us today, the University of San Francisco and Beedie, Morning Weasel, Zhao Yu, and also the sponsors universities that we belong as members of the Chinese Globalization Association, so the Rollins College, Georgia Tech, the University of Macerata, Jacobs University, EMBA Business School, and the University of Agder. So we are very pleased that this second day was very successful. We had wonderful interaction with panelists, with speakers, and so I give back you the floor just to close this session and to announce the third day. The link will be provided online on Facebook, on our social media. Thank you again, William, for hosting this event today. Bye-bye.
Yes, and also thank you for all the members. And let's say bye-bye for tonight or this morning session.
Hello, everybody.
Good night. See you tomorrow.
Good afternoon for Europe.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
可以结束了。